Okay, this is the meeting for Dr. Warren McDonald, and he's going to be speaking tonight on leadership. Dr. Warren McDonald's been a longtime friend of mine. He is a national speaker, and he is one of the smartest people I know when it comes to presenting leadership, Robert's Rule of Order, and all of the above. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to you, Dr. McDonald, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Donna, it's a pleasure to be with you. Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, look,
Yes, sir.
I have lost the screen. Let me see if I can get you guys up and you can still see my screen. I should be able to do that. But if not, it won't matter. We're going to rock and roll. We're going to
we see you fine. We see you fine.
That's good.
And Peter, thank you for joining us.
I can't see.
Yeah, Peter just joined us, Dr. McDonald, and he's from Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us, Peter.
Nice to have you here, Peter. All right, so look, what we're going to talk about tonight, they asked me several months ago, Donna did, and if I would develop some things to help new and prospective leaders working with new chapters. And it's evolved into a number of different things. We've got people from all across the country that are going to be here tonight in existing organizations. Now, leadership is important. When we talk about leaders, sometimes that sounds exciting. Oh, I'm going to lead. Can you see it now? Audie Murphy running across the field, leading his troops in the back. Look, you're not going to do that in the normal office. We're not talking about that kind of leadership. We oftentimes put leadership ahead of management. It is my philosophy as a professor in that area that management is important as well. So the title of this presentation is Leadership and Management, a Symbiotic Relationship. Now, somebody who's not on here yet, but called me and asked me, was that a clean term, symbiotic? Well, he's from Georgia, and I forgave him for that. Symbiotic simply means a win-win relationship. You should have a symbiotic relation with your laboratory. I hope that's the case. If not, we probably need a new lab. When we both get something out of the deal. Now, what does that have to do with leadership and management? Today, we have a lot of different people, different genders, different colors, different ethnic backgrounds, different cultures. We have got to use leadership skills and we got to use management. Let's talk about that a little bit. Now, what is leadership? Some of you, everyone has an idea of what leadership is, but I want to put in your mind it's a process. Leadership is a verb and it requires action. Leader is a noun. Don't get a title and consider yourself leading in any way. Take action and make your organization better by leading it effectively. We'll talk about how to do that tonight. Now, I've been out here a long time and I've studied leadership back in my political days and back in my civic days. And I have come up with my own personal definition. It is that leadership is the ability to influence, to motivate, to empower people to accomplish things they may never have felt possible. I believe that is an apt definition for us to use tonight. There are so many people, and I've got to tell you, I'm one of them that gave up on opticianry, and I apologize. I'm sorry I did. But I fought a battle for a long time. Things changed in Asheville, North Carolina, when I met a group of people like Kim. People who have new ideas and new blood and want to see us get to where we can go. It's important that we do that. But I want you to understand, as future leaders, it requires something of you. Number one, you got to be dedicated and you got a desire to lead. That's an important concept. If you're just here to get a title, you got a problem. You got to have an ability to motivate other people. And most important, you got to be able to self-motivate. Now, I can't see, but if you have not seen this, there's a man named William McRaven. Anyone know who he is? He was a Navy admiral. Now, in the Marine Corps, we call the Navy our cab service, and I still believe that to be the truth. McRaven grew up not far from me in Pinehurst, North Carolina, the center of the Gulf world. He's the Knight Commander of Naval Operations and Special Operations. And he's now the president of the University of Texas. He gave a commencement speech from his university. He went to Texas, Austin, and he gave one of the best commencement addresses I've ever heard, and I reflect on it from time to time. He said, if you want to change the world, make your bed. And that seems rather simple. McRaven, he makes it a point. We are privileged to be in a leadership position, and the people we're privileged to lead are impacted by what we say and do. We got to motivate ourselves to be a better leader, and making that bed is just accomplishing one small task of the day. It seems simple. It is, but it's just an attitude and an opportunity. Leadership requires vision. Who better to talk about that than Opticians? 1901, Disney was born, Walt Disney. He took art classes as a boy and got a job as a commercial illustrator at age 18. He moved to California in the 1920s and set up with his brother Roy Disney Studio. Now, they built a place called Disneyland on July 17 of 1955. But Roy wanted more. He saw some real opportunity. I can't see hands coming up, but I suspect most of you have been to Disney World at some time, or Disneyland if you're on the left coast. If you haven't, you ought to. Roy decided with the great success of Disneyland that he could conquer the rest of the world. He got tired of the hustle bustle of California, and he started looking around on the East Coast for a place to go. And he wound up outside of Orlando, Florida. Now, imagine this. He comes to a place that there's nothing but swamp. People saw snakes and alligators, and Walt Disney saw something else. Something else. Think about that for a minute. You're leading an organization. What is your vision for that organization? What is your personal vision? In 1955, Disneyland started. Roy had a vision, and because of his dedication and his vision, we have Disney World. And while some of us have a different opinion of Disney these days, that's vision, people. I want you to know leadership comes at a price. Steve Jobs tells us if you want to make everybody happy, don't be a leader, sell ice cream. True story. But leadership also, according to Simon Sinek, who's one of the top legal minds in the world, Sinek tells us that the true price of leadership is the willingness to place the needs of others above your own. You got to truly care about what people think and put your self-interest aside. I think that's important. A picture of leadership. Now, look, guys, if you've been in a leadership position very long, I want you to pay attention to the man at the top. That's a lonely place. Everybody has in your mind a picture of what a leader might be. If you served in the military, some leader that you passed along the way that made an impact on your life is what you think a leader is. They are. Some people always tell me when we get into these things, my dad, my mom, of course. But we don't have one picture of leadership. I can't draw a picture on a classroom for my students and say, that's leadership. That's a leader. We talk about leadership through studying it. It's something that I've written about, I've talked about, and I've studied consistently for 50 years. Now, we've looked at leadership in a number of ways. We study their traits, their behavior and characteristics, their style. But you're in charge, and you got to know it's lonely at the top. So there's a price, and the picture of leadership is not always rosy. Note too that my friend J. Brian Bennett shares this with us. Brian says that leadership growth is a personalized journey. Leaders must be true to themselves. I can't lead like you, nor you like me. Now, what does that mean? If you think about it, leadership is personal. We all have a personality. That personality will shine through in what we do for our people. Look, they'll know in a minute. They'll know what kind of leader you're going to be by being around you. But know it's a personal journey. Do it your way. Find your way. Let's talk about the kind of leaders there are. First and foremost, know that leaders who only seek power and control wind up losing both pretty quick. In the past, we've talked about a number of different types of leaders. Autocratic, my way or the highway. Guilty for a while. I got to tell you, I started studying leadership because I screwed up a lot. Democratic, everybody votes for everything. Sometimes that works fine. The French call it laissez-faire. Generally, a free rein. Somebody at the top just driving directions when they feel like they just have to. Participating, we ask questions of people. Let them have a voice. You see where we're headed. We're changing direction here. Today, we talk about transactional and transformational meetings. Transactional meeting, let's make a deal. You do this for me, and I'll do that for you. Or vice versa. Mainly, those people are punitive. You do something wrong, you're gonna feel the heat. Transformational leaders, they're folks who use charisma, motivation, empowerment to transform the culture in an organization. And the most important kind of leader I want to talk about is the servant leader. That's what I aspire to. Servant leaderships, we're going to get into a little deeper. But the key ingredient in servant leadership is integrity. When you have someone leading, you want to follow that person that you know is not going to take a wrong turn. That's an important concept. Now, servant leadership doesn't always mean leading from the front. When we think about leadership most of the time, some of it, particularly the men, we can see Teddy Roosevelt charging up San Juan Hill in the Spanish American War, leading the Rough Riders. That's an exciting kind of leadership. We're not going to do that at Walmart Vision Center or wherever we are. What we're going to do is take care of our people. Now, academics don't steal things, we borrow them. And I borrowed this from Dean Hanson. Dean is at Harvard Business School, and I'm fortunate to know him. I did a postdoc at Harvard and got to listen to him. And when the first time I heard him speak, he used this, and I saw it recently, and I brought it back up. I thought I'd share it with you tonight. This is a pack of wolves. Servant leadership doesn't mean we charge up San Juan Hill. Sometimes we have to lead from the back. Now, notice the blue arrow at the top. That is the leader in this case. The three in the front are old and sick, and they set the pace. Notice that the rest of the pack stays behind them. The next five are the strongest. They're there to protect the front and side from attack. The middle group's fully protected, and the five behind them are also among the strongest to protect the back. That leader is the one standing back there that ensures no one is left behind. Not always about being out front. It's about being there and taking care of those on your team. Excuse me. So when do we lead from the back? Leading from the back, it's a check and balance style of leadership that drives the team forward to maintain momentum. From the side, leaders coach each other in a democratic leadership style and ensure everyone's moving forward together in the same direction. Now, I just finished working with a hospital group. I do a lot of that. And this particular group had about as dysfunctional a middle management. They have several hospitals, and the middle managers were not considered very high on the totem pole. That's a mistake because they're the guys where the rubber meets the road. So we had to kind of work on getting that culture changed. We'll share that in just a few minutes. Servant leadership versus traditional leaders. Now, leadership is, traditional folks think it's a rank to obtain, power and control, measure success through output, believes it's about event. Look at what I've accomplished. Servant leaders, on the other hand, understand it's not about that. They listen, they see it's an opportunity to serve, and they share control. And that drives things. Now, leadership behavior and characteristics are important. Inspiration. You want someone that's going to be, you want to be able to inspire the people behind you to follow. You got to show trust and compassion. I don't know how many of you watched the movie Patton. George Patton happened to serve here at what was once called Fort Bragg, now Fort Leavenworth. And Patton was quite a harsh man. And the one thing he didn't have was compassion. It cost him in the end. One thing he was adaptable. His troops trusted him. He certainly inspired them, sometimes through fear. But he was adaptable. He went wrong. The only thing he lacked was compassion. Coaching. Today, that's a big, if any of you played sports in high school or beyond, or Little League Baseball, coaching is important. If you don't believe it's important, I've got a great friend of mine named Matt Doherty. We're going to talk about Matt in a little bit. Matt is a guy that was the selected man to take the place of, as an old high school basketball coach. One of my heroes was Dean Smith. Dean Smith led the Tar Heels and was a man of character. Doherty took his place. He didn't last a year. We'll talk about that a little bit. Coaching is different. We learn from our coaches. Do coaches win games and lose them? Sometimes, if they don't motivate the team. Listening in a positive culture. Now, think about this. Dwight Eisenhower said that integrity is the supreme quality of leadership. Cultural development has to do with respect and empowerment. People should be able to speak up in your meeting. People should be able to speak up in your organization and feel safe, not have their legs cut out from under them. Be supportive and let them have a voice. Empowering people allows them to feel free. Now, I'm going to tell you a personal story. When I started, I went to Durham Tech Opticians School. Now, I was a pretty good student, and my mom and dad wanted me to go to med school and do other things. Well, I was a musician, still am. I wanted to be Paul McCartney. My mom and dad convinced me that probably was not a sound way. I got married and realized that wasn't the kind of life I wanted to lead. So I went out and went to optician school and did well and really enjoyed it. And I went into business for myself. I was not quite 30, and we hit a home run. We were in the right place at the right time, and the good Lord shone on us, and we did well. So I was successful, man. I was full of myself, and whew, I knew it. I was the man. Well, I expanded. I got a manager, a really good guy, high graduate, also out of Durham Tech. He didn't do everything exactly the way I did it. He couldn't be right. I'm the man. I lost a lot of good people that way because I didn't let him have a voice. He knows it. We've talked about this. He's one of the reasons I started studying leadership. I didn't empower him enough. Now, one time I also had a wonderful lab guy. Back in the day, we had a guy at Cap Lejeune that would, he got into slab offs, and they were glass. We didn't even have CR39 yet. Yes, I'm old, Donna, I know. But it's important that we understand that it's hard to make. Well, this slab off finally comes in after about a month, and this lady called me every day wanting her glasses, and he tears it up into edger in about 15 minutes. Oh boy, did I use that as a learning tool? No, I fired that man on the spot. Big mistake. I didn't. It was hard. Leadership's tough. Cultural development is simple, according to Sir Richard Branson. And Branson is a cool dude. He's the head Virgin, if you know what I'm talking about. Virgin Airlines, Virgin Hotels. He's an interesting guy. He says there's no magic formula for great company culture. The key is just to treat your staff as the way you'd be treated. Look, the Bible calls it the golden rule. He came up with that way back in, he was born in 1950. This man has done it all. Good leaders set a good example. Focus on team interests, clear vision, problems or opportunities. All of these things are important. You know your team, you know their strengths, you know their weaknesses, and you build on them to make yourself and everyone else better. Those are good leaders. Now, exceptional leaders even go beyond that. My friend and colleague Greg Tate from Charleston, South Carolina, shares with us 13 traits of inspiring, exceptional leaders. I'm not going to read them to you. I'm going to send you these slides. Use them for what you will. Read those exceptional leader traits. They trust you to do your job. Steve Jobs again comes up with an idea of why should we hire somebody smarter than us and tell them what to do? And the last one, they care. Remember that. We'll get to it in a minute. If any of you have read the book Whale Done, Whale Done has been around for a good while now. It was written by Ken Blanchard. Ken wrote The 1 Minute Manager, and he did a great job. But this Whale Done came after that. The 1 Minute Manager in the late 90s. Whale Done talks about the relationship that the trainers have with the killer whales at SeaWorld. Now, can you imagine having to train or manage a killer whale? Just imagine. You better have some kind of a relationship with those people or you're going to be breakfast. So it's very important we understand Whale Done. The power of positive relationships are part and parcel of exceptional leaders. Leaders are followers. Aristotle tells us that you can't be a good follower without, if you can't be a good follower, you can't be a good leader. It's really important. Mandela tells us it's better to lead from behind and put others out front, especially when you celebrate victory. This one I came up. Great leaders are great lighting engineers. They know how to ensure others are in the spotlight at the right time. That's an important concept. Now, there are some motivational theories to leadership. There's two basic subcultures, content theories and process theories. The content theories are those that focus on human and other needs all people have. Process focuses on the context in which work is done and how people feel and think about it. Now, today, by golly, we're talking about remote work and all kinds of things that we would have never even been discussing a few years ago. But there's some very prominent leadership theories I want you to know about. First, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Many of you have seen this. If you haven't, you need to pay attention to it because it's important. Maslow in 1943 wrote a paper called A Theory of Human Motivation. And this is probably the most widely known, and I believe in it. I think it works. Notice at the bottom of the pyramid, physiological needs are important. You're a college student or you finish your internship You're ready, you pass your boards, you get out, you're ready to go to work. You got to have food, you got to have shelter, you got to have transportation, you got to pay the bills. And you have psychological, physiological needs that are important. You've got to satisfy those. Then we move up psychologically to safety and security. The first thing you do when you get a job is you're not a full-time employee. Now, I was an academic for many years, and I got what's called tenure. Some people just have a real negative belief about tenure. My golly, those people, they're lazy. Well, think about this. The average time that people spend getting a good look is 90 days, right? Now, in academia, you're on a one-year contract until you get tenure for the rest of your life. So tenure is about a 6-year program if you're accepted into the club full time. Then you finally get some safety and security. Get the drift. Typical jobs, 90-day probation. Then you reach safety and security. Psychologically, you're better about it. Then you move up the pyramid a little bit more. Belonging and friendship. You start making people relationships with the people you work with, and that helps form the culture within the organization. And then finally, we move on up to esteem and recognition. Look, I don't care what anybody says. Human beings all want to be recognized for the things they do. I hope you agree with me. There's one final step up that pyramid. Only 2% of the population, according to psychology, ever reached that thing that Abraham Maslow calls self-actualization. That means, let me just explain it simply. I was going to the university one day and I was on a lecture to a large group. And I'm driving down the road and I hear this big boom box. This guy comes rolling up with a great big Hummer. You all know what a Hummer is. A great big SUV. It had spinning little wheels on it. Black shine. He had a spit shine. And he took off speed and leaving the stoplight. And on the back, I noticed his license plate was "Got Cash." Have you ever heard the term new money? That's him. So I'm going to school and I'm going to lecture to a friend of mine is a surgeon, former surgeon, he's retired now. His name is Franklin Clark. Dr. Clark was also a basketball player at North Carolina, played against Alcindor in the national championship game. 7 feet tall. So he's going to guest lecture with me that day. And we're going to talk about leadership and the relationship between sports, what he learned, and what he learned when he went into the entrepreneurial. Now, old Got Cash took off. He had his nice car. Man, that boom box was booming. Now, what did Dr. Clark come driving up in? He had a pickup truck that was about 3 years old, had his golf gloves in the back. He had Birkenstock sandals on and blue jeans, and he had his hair going out a little bit, and a golf shirt like I'm wearing tonight. Now, Rusty Clark has got more money than anybody I know. I use this example, it's probably a poor analogy, but Got Cash certainly was not self-actualized. Dr. Clark didn't need to impress anybody but himself. I hope you understand the point. Only 2% get there. I hope you do. Expectancy theory. Victor Broom, 1964, came up with the idea that people put out based on performance, that they expect to be compensated based on what they feel their performance is. Are they getting paid sufficiently? Are you recognizing what they do? If the worker expects the answer is yes, they're going to be motivated to put expectancy theory. Now, I talked about that symbiotic relationship. Look, man, managers organize. They align things with the objectives. They have a direct line responsibility. They manage stuff. Leaders inspire, challenge, and support. They serve others first. I'll let you review these slides, but we don't need to belittle management. We need both sets of skills. Now, let's talk about management a bit. According to a friend named Dunn, Robert Dunn was a senior financial advisor and analyst in the Office of the Currency, Washington, D.C. He's from Pinehurst, North Carolina, and was very, very good to my university. And he was a great mentor and philanthropist to many, including me. He came up and he spoke to my students in 2018. He said, the process of getting through things done through and with people is called management. Good management. They're good and bad, right? They're good and bad in everything. A great manager provides direct, constructive feedback, clear about expectations. Listen. Have you ever worked with somebody that didn't listen and pay attention? It's hard. All of these things are important. Now, there's a number of management functions we've talked about forever. Managers plan, organize, they staff, they obtain and retain people. Retaining is important. Getting the right folks on the bus and keeping them on the bus. We direct people. We assign work to workers and motivate them to get it done. And we control it. We monitor performance and we make necessary adjustments. That's hard. The adjustment part's hard. Now, management skills are also significant. Managers should have technical skills. All right, so for example, if you're going to be an optician and you're training an apprentice, how are you going to do that? Now, in many states, apprenticeship is not really that. In fact, in my national studies, 2 different times, most of the people who were termed apprentices taught themselves, and they learned how to hand edge, and they learned how to run the automatic edger, take the PD measure sync height, and anything else beyond that, pretty much they learn on their own. Managers ought to have some kind of technical experience. Now, I had one student not long ago say, well, they ought to know how to do everything in the organization. My response to him was, listen, do you think President Biden can fly an F-16? And I'm not going to make a Biden joke tonight. I don't want to, but of course not. We need to have technical skills. We also have to have human skills. Conceptual skills. You've got to envision future goals. And we've got to set goals that are consistent with our purpose. Nito Cubain is the person who shares that goal-setting definition. Dr. Cubain was Hungarian. His family was in the furniture business. Years ago, they sent him to the United States, to the furniture capital of the world, Hickory, so he could learn how to manufacture furniture. They were going to build a factory in his own country. Well, he lands at the Greensboro airport, and they drop him off in front of it's a Sunday. Well, he didn't know that the furniture market wasn't open on Sunday. So he's looking for a hotel. He walks down the street, and there's a guard shack that leads him to a place called High Point College. Well, he walked up and he said, this is a nice looking place. I'd like to go to school too. He goes to the guard gate, and the guy shows him how to get in. And he said, go talk to the admissions people. They gave him, this guy is a salesman. He became a nationally prominent speaker. He had $500 in his pocket that his family sent him over here, and that's all they had. He got himself, talked himself into a scholarship, and he became quite successful. He later worked with Nightingale Kodak Company, one of the biggest motivational leadership development organizations in the world. He's a $100,000 a year speaker. Well, High Point College was having some difficulties. They were looking for a president, and he came back. They approached him about being the president, getting the thing straightened out. He had business skills. He proved that he was a wealthy man. He came back to High Point, North Carolina, and became president. And they had 110 students possibly. Well, now today, they're Division I athletics. They've got a new optometry school that's starting next year. They're huge, and he bought it. He's built buildings. It springs up out of it. It just springs up, and it's really phenomenal. Nito Cubain knew how to set goals and achieve. Mintzberg, Henry Mintzberg, University of Toronto, talks about interpersonal information and decision-making skills. The interpersonal. You're the figurehead. If you're the manager, you're the figurehead, the liaison across the community. You take on a leadership role by virtue of your title. Informational. You're disseminating. You're a spokesperson, and you monitor what's going on in the organization. And the last one, the decision maker. The most important decision making skill, according to Mintzberg, is disturbance handling. Covey talks about in his 7 habits we're going to address in a minute. Remember disturbance handling. We're going to come back. One of the key things about management is attitude. Zig Ziglar, if you don't know who Zig Ziglar is, look him up. He was phenomenal. Many people consider him the greatest salesperson ever lived. Ziglar left us with several wonderful quotes. He said, "It's not your aptitude, but your attitude that determines your altitude." He said, if you don't think you can, you probably won't. If you feel it's impossible, it probably will be. But by golly, if you think you can, wonders can happen. I believe that. Now, let's talk about another man that did some great work. Stephen Covey wrote this text called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you haven't read it, it's one of the most widely read books in the world. He studied thousands of successful people, highly well-known people, highly effective people. He looked at their habits, attitudes, and their paths to success. He came up with 7 key things. The first one was be proactive. He says there's 3 kinds of people in the world: those that wonder what happened, those that let things happen, and those that make things happen. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen my people in opticianry kind of fall into those first 2 categories. There's a few that have tried to make it happen, but we haven't had the ability to get people to come along with us. We're still at it, though, I promise you. Make it happen when you lead your new organization. Make it happen for you by being proactive in every segment of your life and the organization. Be proactive. Second, begin with an end in mind. Where do you want to end up? We call that vision, don't we? Don't live day to day for a purpose. What do you want to achieve? That's true of your family, your individual life, and your organization. You got to have a desired endpoint to start with. Third, prioritize by what he calls putting first things first. Don't sweat the small stuff. One of the problems that I've had all of my life is about, look, man, my wife says I'm clearly OCD. Probably true. Don't sweat the small stuff. Emphasize the most important, significant activities and concentrate on reaching those goals first. Remember the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. The next one, think win-win. In every activity, attempt to be fair when dealing with others. Don't attempt to take undue advantage. And if you think selfishly, you're going to lose. Think unselfishly and sacrifice yourself for the idea and to win so both sides come out. Think first to understand and to be understood. Listen to others. Make certain you understand the needs and desires that they bring. Communicate effectively and listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. If we do twice as much of that as we do this, we'll be successful. And the last one, there's one more after this. Synergy is number 6. Covey indicates that the individual, and listen to me, leader, you're the person that needs to be here to do that. It's up to you. Take your new organization or your old organization. Change it. The one that can provide synergy, make all the fingers fit in the glove. The ability to effectively coordinate activities among people are the most effective leaders. Key terms here: respect, value, and diversity. Look, man, things are different. When I was coming up, we didn't have women opticians. Wasn't happening. They weren't in the good old boys club. Were we right? Of course not. Today it's different. There are more women in opticianry and optometry schools than there are men. Synergy is important. Key terms: respect, value, and diversity. Respect their opinions, value them as individuals, and understand that diverse populations come with different ideas, and many of them are valuable if you listen. The seventh habit: sharpen the saw. This is about you personally. Constantly renew yourself. Use continuing education not because you got to check a box. Go learn something. Attend civic events. Go out and learn what's going on. If you are religious, I attend church. I believe that helps me keep a foundation and a ground. And spend some time with yourself and your family. Don't get so locked up. Those are the 7 habits of highly effective people. Covey goes on. He wrote something in 2004 called the 8 Habits. And I share this because I think it's important. Society today is feeling pain. You hear it all the time. I'm stuck in a rut. I can't seem to get ahead. I don't win. Why try? Individuals and organizations in America today suffer from a virus of negativity. And for us to achieve and to move beyond that point is important. We got to get rid of it. The problem: there's seemingly diminishing choices. Globalization is changing how we function. We got disrupted. Now look, guys, Warby Parker's here. If we weren't an easy target, we wouldn't be disrupted. Don't you think you bring more to the table than that guy's going to get out of that mailbox? Sure you do. I know you. The world of eye care has changed. For the first time in this country's history, people, especially us, have to be prepared to manage ourselves. Now, Covey goes into what's called the 5 stages of civilization's voice. When America was founded, we were the hunter-gatherers. We had to go shoot something or pick it to eat. Then we moved into the agricultural age. The agricultural age allowed us to grow things. And it was much easier than going out and shooting something. The industrial age came along. Wow, we boomed. If you've been to Pittsburgh, I mean, wow, look at what they did. Look at all the great things that we've accomplished in this wonderful country in just a few hundred years on that. We're now in the information age, the knowledge work. Drucker calls it the age of wisdom. How did we react? We didn't change anything. We didn't react at all. We have a chance. And the reason that I'm doing these dadgum things is this. I love opticians. That's where I started. I believe in it. I believe we do wonderful work. But I believe it's time that we improve ourselves. What is your vision as a leader of the world of eye care? How are we going to evolve? You got to answer it as future leaders. Old dudes like me, I mean, I'm retired. It's time for you guys to have a vision of the future that's going to take us into the next generation. And it's not about us and you. It's about the people who come behind us. What are they going to look like? Are we going to let them, whoever they be, corporate folks, whatever, who's going to define who we are? We've got choices. We can rebel or quit. The most important thing is finding our voice, our natural gifts, and then helping others find theirs through modeling, empowerment, and providing support for them. Folks, that's important. Learning to lead and manage is important because we have gender differences, racial, ethnic, age differences. One key word that addresses each of those things, Aretha, RESPECT. Be open-minded, recognize and encourage employees, and let them know that one's own experience and background is not the only one that you value. Value theirs. Look for ways to incorporate diverse perspectives and talents that will help you obtain your organization's goals. That's an important concept. We've got generational difference. Man, we've got the silent generation, 25 to 40. The baby boomers like me, Gen X. All those things are important. We can put it down into 4 terms: challenge harmful stereotypes, communicate preferences openly, respect boundaries, and don't play favorites. That's hard to do. In fact, it's almost impossible to do. Now, this came from a recent Harvard Business Review study, and it's really important talking about silent generation. Baby boomers, the folks like me, we're still in the workforce. We look for consensus and collaboration. Generation X, they demand competence, equality, and asking why, whatever equality means. Focus on achievement, the millennials, coaching and mentoring. And then Generation Z, believe it or not, they're moving back towards X and even to the baby boomers. You can see on this slide later on leadership and management styles. If you've got an apprentice, you got to be direct. If you've got somebody that's developing as a professional, delegate tasks to them and let them learn. If you've got a more skilled person, coach them. And then if you've got someone who's been there a while, empower them, let them learn from their mistakes. Use mistakes not as a punitive thing. Use mistakes as a learning opportunity. That's important. Empowerment. That's a big word I want to share with you, and we got a lot to do. Encouraging intellectual energy and commitment. Do you allow your staff to learn? Mandela said he never lost. He either won or learned. He said that from his jail cell during apartheid. Now, oftentimes when we go to hospitals, I talk to people about the importance of empowering nursing staff. Funny story. My daughter-in-law was a nurse for 50 years. She worked at Womack Army Medical Center. And one day, a young 52-year-old resident came walking up. And he's about 5'2". She is too. She sat behind the desk with 2 patients trying to talk to her. And a young man comes up with MD. Some of them think that means magnificent deity. It doesn't. The young man wrote out a prescription, and my wife, with her experience, knew that was an adult dosage that would kill that 6-month-old baby. Well, she didn't want to embarrass the poor guy. His chief resident was behind him. She kind of pushed it back, lowered her glasses. I know what that means, but he didn't. She looked at him nicely and said, "You sure you want to do that?" Pushed it back. "I'm the doctor here, man. You're the nurse. Take care of it." Well, the chief resident happened to be a friend of ours. She got up and said, "Come here. Keisha Rookie here. He ain't gonna kill this baby on my watch." Empower the nurses. That young man learned a lesson that day. He didn't treat anybody stupid again. He learned a lesson. Empower and listen to what your people have to say. You'll all be better. Micromanagement. You've heard it. It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them, don't. If you hire somebody smart, let them do their job. They'll make you money. It's a waste of time to micromanage. Keep in mind that, and I'm running out of time, I know, but achievement and success is important. That's the whole aspect. That's what we're talking about here. Leadership and management leads to success. Now, Churchill reminds us that success isn't final and failure isn't fatal. Now, listen, the great American philosopher, Rocky Balboa, reminds us it's not how hard you hit, but how hard a hit you can take and keep getting up. Great leaders help those they serve achieve their personal definition of success. Remember that. Lead and manage well, folks. These are some tips. I'm not sure what time it is, but I think I'm probably getting pretty close here.
You have 9 minutes left, sir.
Good. All right, so I'm gonna move on. I'll let you read the slide on manage and lead well. These are important. Management and leadership. You got to do both. You can't do just one and be successful. What's next? This is Ronald Reagan, for those of you who don't know. In the War of 1812, the U.S. Navy defeated the British Navy in the Battle of Lake Erie. Master Commandant of the Navy, Oliver Perry, wrote to Major General William Henry Harrison, "We have met the enemy and they are ours." Listen, man, Kelly's parody of this famous battle report perfectly summarizes our tendency to create our own problem. It's time for opticians, guys. And we've got a chance. We've got new blood out there. We've got new people that want to do things different. Reagan told us in this speech sometime back, we got to reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the lawbreaker. We got to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for his actions. What's next for opticians? We have a chance, guys. We got new people. What's leadership traits, skills, divine providence? That plays a role. Is it some combination of the above? Sure. Now think about this. It's a personal journey. Do it your way. Jim Carrey. You don't think about Jim Carrey giving a conventional address at a college. But he did a great one, man. He said that fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. So many of us choose our paths out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect. Now, this commencement address was done in 2014 at the Maharishi International University of Management. That happens to be in Michigan. Jim Carrey, imagine that. We heard about my Admiral Raven making the bed. Now we got Jim Carrey. Can we teach people to lead? That's what we're trying to get across tonight. Share some things with you about leadership that is important. If not born with leadership traits, can they be taught? Of course. No one's born with traits. They come about through our relationship. Many feel we can teach people to develop their leadership skills, but the military does. Now, some people think military intelligence is an oxymoron living around them. I don't know that I don't agree with that. Some do. But what's most important for you when you start your new leadership organization is to help your team find their voice, help them develop a personal mission and goal, help them mission and vision, help them develop goals and motivate them to reach their full potential. That's important. Now, everybody has leadership people that they look up to. Now, I don't know if you know who that young player is. They called him Mike when he came from Laney High School in Wilmington, North Carolina. I was a high school coach and actually had to coach against him. Could he have beaten us by himself? He did. But his name is Michael Jordan, eventually. What many people think is the greatest basketball player of all time. And to the day he died, the last time I went to Dean's funeral at Chapel Hill, Michael was with us, and boy, I've never seen a man get more upset than Michael Jordan at Coach's funeral. When he played for the Chicago Bulls, he wore his Carolina stuff, and he'd call Coach Smith before games and ask advice. How come? Because Coach Smith taught the Carolina way. Here's the Carolina way in one son. When you make a basket, point to the player through the pass. That applies not just basketball, but everything you do. Nobody gets anywhere without a lot of assists. Make sure that you remember that and tell your people how important they are to you. Show them appreciation. You have two primary choices in life, guys. Your choice is going to define the future, but as optician leaders, your choice goes beyond that right now. You can accept conditions as they are or accept responsibility for changing. If you do what's easy, your life's going to be harder. We're not getting better. We're just surviving. If you do what's hard, life will be easy. My vision for opticians is better trained, better educated, more responsibilities, scope of practice that's expanding, and the opportunity to be better. My friend and retired Colonel Marines, he shares with me that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. We've got an opportunity right now. A little bit more about that in a minute. What people think leadership is telling folks what to do. What it really is broken down into a lot of things. Leadership is important. Next steps. Do you want to lead? Do you see yourself taking a role in this work? What training do you need, and what can we do? What can I do to help? My advice to you is to seek a mentor or coach to help you along that path to success. And remember several key performance indicators. KPIs, you hear about them if you work in the corporate world. I got some new ones. Keeping people informed, keeping them involved, and keeping them inspired. That's an important concept. Success isn't just about what you accomplish in your life. It's what you as a leader inspire others to do. What motivated you, man? We've got people who enter our lives that strengthen us. My professional journey started out very young in a civic organization called the JC. I've got a solid academic background. I completed postdoctoral work at Harvard University. But nothing motivated or taught me more than what it meant to succeed than this group of people filled with folks. And the creed I'll let you read yourself. But the last line of that creed is how we end every JC meeting. That service to humanity is the best work of life. Vision and great minds have to come together. Jack Welch tells us that a leader's job is to look into the future and see the organization not as it is, but as it should be. How do you see your state organization? I can tell you that Donna and I and others have vision for the national organization. We've got to mend those together. We've got to be aligned. It's an important concept. An acronym, CARE, communicate often and effectively. Show appreciation, reward in various ways. I don't mean give them a raise. You can't do it all the time. Give them an attaboy. You'd be surprised that most studies show that those small personal interactions count just about as much as a raise. People know what finances are. And the last part, engage often. And when you do really listen, have you ever worked? I've got a friend of mine who I've been coaching him along. He ran for public office, and he really was a nice young man. But he was always looking for the next guy's hand to shake. What's that guy going to be like? What's that woman going to be like? What do I do? He doesn't look them in the eye. He just, how you date? I need your vote. And moved on. Engage people often, but listen to them. Listen to what they've got to say. You might be better from it. That comes to us from a friend of mine named Jeff Gross. We're just about to the end, but I want you to think about this. There are winners and losers everywhere we go. Coach Neil Parcells, losers assembles in little groups and complain. Winners assemble as a team. Where do you want to go? The guy on the right is Matt Doherty. Matt Doherty came in, played on the National Basketball Championship team with James Worthy Perkins, Michael Jordan. He was in the when Jordan hit that great three to win in 1983. Matt came in as the coach right after Coach Smith left. He didn't make it a year. He made some real mistakes. Now, what did Matt do? Did he go hide somewhere? He did. He took up some bad habits, and he felt bad about himself. But after a short period of time, his old mentor, Coach Smith, came to him and said, "Son, you got to straighten out yourself. You got to do better. Here's what I'm seeing." Excuse me, Coach Williams, who came after. He was at Kansas then. But Matt left Notre Dame, where he was doing a good job. Came to Chapel Hill and got fired in 1 year. He wrote a book recently. I encourage you all to go take a look at it sometime. It's called Rebound, Passion to Pain. Matt's about 6'7". He's not a great big center kind of guy, but he's strong, powerful from New York City, and was a great basketball player. And he finally quit feeling sorry for himself and put his life in this book, Rebound from Passion to Pain. It talks about the leadership lessons that he learned from failure. My Marine Corps brother talks about questions to ask yourself. Am I accomplishing the mission? Am I leading an example? Are you getting what you need to your people? Ask these questions to your teammates. And am I asking them too often or not enough? I mean, what can I do to make your job better? Situational leadership. Listen, man, situational leadership is a relatively new term, but it's important. Paul Hershey in 1969 came up with the motto: selling, telling, anticipating, delegating. I'm not going to get deeply in this, but the point about situational leadership, the point about situational leadership is this: you don't do everything the same way. You don't use the same style every time. You've got to know them all and react to the situation. That's what situational leadership is about. And now we need to learn from the eagles. Eagles fly alone at high altitude. The eagle is a symbol of America, and it teaches us to rise to great heights to maximize our potential. That means, look, ladies, when you were in high school, your mama told you to stay away from that one young man who was trouble. Was she right? My wife probably should have listened. It's important that we understand that we need to be around positive people that are going to make us better, and we make those around us better. Lessons from the eagle are important. Remember, it's not your aptitude, but your attitude that determines your altitude. Are we going to go out and get it? An additional inspiration from Mr. Ziegler, and listen, this could go against the grain, but I believe that one thing he shared: stop selling and start helping. I think sometimes that we're taught too much how to add on or how to do this and do that. Help